Welcome to part 8 of the HMS Daring build. We got the base in for it now. Well, it's actually a picture frame. I used a picture frame on the Astute to make this, and I thought I'd stick with that same formula because it worked fine. Unfortunately, this frame, I thought this width here, or down and across there, was the actual depth of the frame itself, and as it turns out to be, no, it isn't. So it's a lot shallower than I thought it was, which in some respects isn't too much of an issue, but in other respects it is an issue. The reason why I say that is because obviously I've got to feed the wires through to somewhere to actually put the ship, put the wires through for the lighting, and then I've also then got to have room for the battery as well. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do about that yet. There is a way around these things. I'm not going to sort of chuck this frame away or not use this frame, because it was, well, I'll say it's fairly expensive. It was like about 25 quid, because this was a custom frame job. And there's no point in keeping it for the frigate either, to be fair, because this frame would just be too big for the frigate, and it would look a bit lost in here. So it's a case of that, you know, I do need to use this frame. There's no other model that I could use this frame for, to be honest. So I just need to really think how I'm going to do it. I think one thing I might do is just use some strips of wood underneath and then just paint that black, so this base would actually be raised up a bit. So I don't know whether that would look odd or not. I would have to have a little experiment with that actually to have a see. Whatever happens, to be honest, I'm going to need to glue this in. The bottom part of it, I'm going to need to get that glued in, and then I'm going to need to get everything painted to ensure that nothing leaks through this, and I'll need to seal all of the corners on it as well. But I think what I might do is see if I can find some reasonably cheap wood to actually put on the bottom of this, just to paint black. I think that might be the way. Now I know that there's going to be some people out there saying, well, Richard, why don't you just build your own frame? And yes, that would be a good idea. Only problem is my woodworking skills are absolutely diabolical. I couldn't build a frame if I tried, to be honest. I've tried and failed on many occasions when I thought, I know, I'll give it a go myself and see what happens. Yeah, don't work with me, I'm afraid. I can't. It's just one of those things, unfortunately. It's just the way it is, it's just the way it goes, unfortunately. So yeah, I think as I say, I think the only thing that I can do is just try and find some cheap wood to actually build up a little bit of a base on the bottom. Because this, as it sits, when I'm looking at it and I put the ship up to the edge of the frame, the bootstrap line is actually out of the water, which is where we need it to be. As I say, it's just a case of that it's getting all the electrics through underneath, and actually at the same time getting this situated properly. And I think it's gonna, if I'm to be honest, it's gonna go exactly like that. I think that's going to be for me the best way to do it. That's going to be the way that we want it, because we've got the little boat that's going to come out across here, so I need some space down here but not too much space. And one of the other things that always springs to mind is something a photographer always told me, and that's anything that you do, any picture that you take it in thirds. So you've got a third of landscape, a third of whatever it is that you're taking a picture of, and then the other third of landscape. So if it's a house or a tree or whatever that you're taking, which is the main focal point, that would make a third of it, and then the other 2/3, or the other third on each side, would just be basically scenery, so to speak. And I think that kind of thing applies to this too. So I don't want the ship kind of like that, you know, or kind of like that, or whatever. It's going to have to be reasonable in its position. And I think, if I'm to be honest, that is going to be the way that it goes. I just have to have a little look-see-loo and find out. But whatever I decide, I will come back to you and let you know. Well, we've got a bit of progress on the stand. I thought I'd share with you. The base is in. That's set to the right level, or the right depth, actually, should I say? Sorry, for the HMS Darren. It basically means that the bootstrap line is at basically the same height as the top of the base there, which is good, which is where I wanted it. What I have done is, just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere, is I've taped that on the bottom end. That'll come off. So it's the low tack decorator's tape that I've put on there purposely so it doesn't rip anything off. And then I've basically used the Woodland Scenics water effects, which is good stuff actually. I've had that bottle for years and it just has not gone off at all. And I've squidged that in all around the edges. So basically where you've got the gaps around between the picture frame and the backing, that's all squidged in, and that's sealed up any gaps. And so that's just setting up at the moment. I think that's going to be overnight, maybe a little bit long before that actually cures properly, because it's quite a thick bit of water effects that I've stuck in there. That will actually dry completely clear, so that won't be seen at all. Once that's dried off, I'll then just paint the base in the true blue, or is it the navy blue? I can never remember, but anyway, it's the Woodland Scenics colour. That will just have the effect of actually sealing this completely, because what I'll do is I'll glue it, I'll paint sort of like up and in and underneath everywhere, so I know that no resin can actually escape when that's done. Now, because obviously that is now flat, I'm not going to have anywhere for the wires to go, or the switch or the battery, etc. So I've, in my meagre collection of wood, which was just basically one piece, I had one of these, but it was double the width of this, so I've basically measured it and cut it down the middle to act as feet to actually go underneath the base when it's all finished. I won't put this on, I won't put the wood on actually until the sort of ship's in and it's the resin's in and cured, because if this is just sort of resting on the, or glued to the bottom, and this hardboard isn't supported, it will bow. So I'll glue these on last. But what this does is it effectively helps raise this up by 2.1 centimetres to be precise. Well, it won't be, it'll be more 2 centimetres by the time I finish, because that will need to be sanded down. So one of the things I'm going to need to do is in here drill a hole, or drill a series of little holes somewhere for the slider switch to go in, which would be great. And then obviously those power wires will lead to my little 9-volt battery, which is rechargeable, so I won't actually need to remove this from the base of the stand, to be honest. All I need to do is just plug the lead in to a outlet somewhere, and that'll be that. So the battery won't need to move, to be fair. The only time they would need to move is if the actual battery itself was to completely die. So I'm just in the process of making a little strap for it that's going to be glued to this side, to the inside of this bit of wood, and also to the bottom of the base as well. So that's going to be good. With the wood, because it's going to need to be sanded on the bottom, I'm just going to get all 4 bits, because I've got like that bit that goes there, another bit that goes there, another bit that will go across there, and then another little bit that will go across there. So I've got a board that's longer than this length here. So all I'm going to do is just get 2 pieces of sandpaper and basically glue them to that piece of board, and then I can use that as a massive sanding board, so I can go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for all 4 bits at the same time to ensure that they're all going to be completely level. So that's where we are with that. The other thing that happened was a wallet tightening, sphincter loosening moment, because I've now got the dimensions for this base. I could actually measure how much of the resin that I'm going to need to pour to make the seascape. Now, I was going to be using the Woodland Scenics deep pour water system. However, after calculating how much I would need to use on the Woodland Scenics calculator that they've got, it's a free app on their website, it turns out to be that just for this, it being 500 mils that way, 250 that way, and 10 deep, it turns out to be that it's 1.25 litres of resin. Now, I'm not sure about anywhere else in the world, but the deep pour water system from Woodland Scenics in the UK is like £32 a kit. The only problem is it's only 300 and something called litres, 300 and something called millilitres in a kit. So that's about 1/3 of a litre in a kit, and I need 1.25 litres of it. So that would cost me somewhere around £128 just to pour the water, just to do the water, if I was to use the Woodland Scenic. So I'm now no longer going to do that. I've got a little bit in one bottle, and I've got another one coming in thinking, oh, that would be enough, but obviously it isn't. So the deep pour water that I've got, I'll save for a secret project that I've got coming up at some point this year, hopefully. Once I get myself back into work again and I can get the funds to do it, because that's going to be relatively expensive. So I've been onto Amazon, and I've had a look on Amazon at the epoxy resin there, which is basically the same stuff as the Woodland Scenics deep pour water, and I can buy near on 3 litres for 60 quid. So I'm going to buy the 3 litres for 60 quid. I think it works out to be better, to be fair. Plus the fact, by doing that, I can actually, the stuff that's left over, I can actually use for the frigate that I'll be doing. So I'll be able to get 2 out of 1. So it's just going to be, it's basically going to work out to be about 30 quid just to do the water on this one. So that's the way that we're going with that. So yeah, there we go. That's where we are at the moment. So as soon as I got a little bit more progress on this wee beastie, I will come back to you. Well, we've got quite a bit of work carried out on the base now, although it doesn't actually look like it, to be fair. But yeah, we've got a bit of work carried out to the base. So yesterday we got the actual base sorted out, and then we used the water effects and splodged that around the outside to ensure that we had a good seal, so that no resin was going to seek out between the two parts, so between the base and the actual frame itself. That cured up overnight, then went in with the water undercoat, the Royal Navy one. Sorry, the Navy Blue, not the Royal Navy. Gave that 2 good coats this morning, and put quite a bit actually underneath the little lip that we've got to ensure that everything was coated properly. And then on this side and then on the other side, I went back in and put some more of that on the base, and then just mixed a little bit of the water, the white water highlight, and then kind of spudged that in and mixed it around a bit, just to make that look fairly good. Just to create a few sort of like darker and lighter areas on there to kind of simulate that you're different levels on the sea. Once that was all dried, I then basically used the Woodland Scenics water effect on the hull of the ship. I basically turned it upside down and splooged it around the hole that's in the hull, to ensure that we had a good tight seal around there, because we don't want water going into the base of the ship, because that's just going to be a waste of resin, and we didn't want it going down through the hole where the wires go. Once that was on the base, I weren't too worried about getting that absolutely spot on, as long as it was at the right angle coming through the base. I wasn't too worried about the ship being sort of like level to either side, because I basically went back in around the bottom of the hull and put some more in there, put some more of the white water, the water effects in there, and then just basically tidied that up to make sure it actually supported the bottom of the ship properly, and also that there were no gaps in the bottom where resin could sink through. That will really, to dry till it's translucent, because of the amount that I've put on there, will take about 2, maybe 3 days to cure properly, to go completely translucent. But I'm not really worried about that, to be fair, because at the end of the day, by the time the resin's in there, you're not going to see that anyway. I mean, over time, regardless, with the resin in there, it's going to cure anyway. But I'm not too worried about it, to be fair, at this stage, as long as there's a good skin on there whereby I can actually touch it with my finger and pull it away without any of the water effects being on there. Then I know that that's dry enough for me to do what I need to do next, which would then be the resin pour. Now for that, I bought this on Amazon yesterday. That's part A. I think it was about 11 o'clock in the evening I brought this, and it turned up this morning at 10. And then we've got part B just there, so that's a 2-to-1 ratio, so I need 2 parts of A to 1 part hardener. So I'm going to be doing 1.2 litres of this. Now this is safe up to 2 inches for 1 pour. So I'm going to be well within that, because I'm only doing a 10mm pour, or a 10mm deep pour. Now this stuff, according to the packaging, takes between 60 to 90 minutes before it starts to cure. I mean, so you've got a 60 to 90 minute working window with this stuff, obviously depending on the room temperature that you're at. So we're going to be using that stuff, and I'm going to be using the navy blue resin tinter for that as well. And that's from Woodland Scenics. Now, according to the instructions on the back, you need 1 drop per 30 millilitres of resin. Now, the thing is with that equates to, for the amount that I'm going to actually be using, that equates to 40 drops of the navy blue tinter. Now, I don't think, well, I don't know, it could be 40 mils that you need in it, I'm not sure, to be honest. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow the old adage that chefs use, that you can add but you can't take away. So I'm going to put 20 drops in to begin with to see where we are on that. And then if it's still a bit too translucent, then I'll just add a further 5 drops at a time until we get to where I want to be. So it could very well be that we do get up to the 40 drops. We might go beyond the 40 drops. I think on this it does say that you can actually use up to 8 drops per 30 millilitres, which I think is a bit excessive, to be quite honest. I'll be pouring in most of the bottle at that rate. So we just have to see, really. As I say, I'll just do it 20 to begin with, and then I'll do it at 5 at a time after that and see where we go with it. So that's that bit. This resin, as I say, it's got the 60 to 90 minutes working time. It will start to cure pretty quickly after that, but it will take up to 72 hours to completely harden and set. But I would imagine, if I'm to be honest, after the first 24 hours, it'll be set enough for me to continue working on the ship. What I'm going to do, to be honest, is once that's actually in, before I do all of the rest of the base after that, I'll just cover the actual resin with tape so it's not going to get damaged. I think that's the best thing for me to do. So once we're ready for the water to go in, I will come back to you. Whether I actually show you the pour or not, I don't know. I'm not going to show you the mixing of the resin. I mean, there's plenty of videos out there on YouTube, if you look at them, that go through the whole thing. I mean, it's a pretty standard thing, really, to be fair. Whether I actually come back to actually show you the pour once I've mixed everything, I'm not sure. So it'll either be as I'm doing the pour that I come back to you, or after the pour's done, whichever. I'm not sure at the moment, but I will come back to you just so you can have a little look at what it's like. And then once I've got it in, then I just need to basically cover the thing to make sure that no dust or anything settles onto the surface. So I will be back with you either as I'm doing the pour or after I've done it. So I'll be back in a bit, guys.